Hello, boys and girls. Greg from the Scary Spirits podcast here to make you another cocktail. This week's cocktail is the Black Widow, and it is the featured cocktail in today's episode. I'm going to take a mixing glass with ice. To that, we're going to add 4 ounces of Blackberry Juice, which you can make yourself, boys and girls, by combining 1/2 a cup blackberries and a 1/2 tablespoon lemon juice. There you go. We're going to pour that in. To that, we're going to add 1 ounce of simple syrup. 1 ounce. Followed by 2 ounces of vodka. We're going to stir that up. Maybe I'll shake it. I think I'll give it a shake. Why not? Then I'm going to strain it into a glass filled with ice. My blackberry juice is a little thick. Certainly is a messy drink. I'll give it that. Not bad. Yeah. Probably better I could actually find some blackberry juice and have it instead of having to try to make my own. But there you go. The Black Widow. Hope you enjoy the podcast. See ya.
If you like horror films, and we know you do, and you don't know who Roger Corman is, you probably should. Not only did he direct many films, he was instrumental in guiding the careers of several high-profile actors and directors, who then went on to act in and direct a multitude of fantastic films. This week's episode of the Scary Spirits podcast features a film directed by Roger Corman, The Terror. And how shall I put this kindly? Let's just say it doesn't live up to his hype. The sage advice, do as I say, not as I do, seems aptly appropriate in this particular case. The film, on the plus side, does, however, feature a very young, somewhat handsome Jack Nicholson, if that's your gig. Cheers!
Welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast. Please be advised that the presenters may use adult language and or discuss adult situations. This podcast is not intended for younger listeners or those that may be easily offended. So, if you're ready, let's go.
Hi, I'm Greg.
Hello, everyone. I'm Karen.
And welcome to the Scary Spirits Podcast, the podcast that combines the two very different but highly compatible worlds of scary films and alcoholic spirits.
What could possibly go wrong?
Indeed. How are you, Karen?
I'm doing great. How are you, Greg?
I'm okay, Karen. I'm okay.
Just okay.
Yeah. I'm ready to talk about Halloween if you like.
Oh, stop the presses, everyone. Craig's ready.
Well, I said next week I'll be, back to we said we'd be back to my center, right? Where
Yes.
I was calmed down and
So how did it go?
it went well, Karen.
It was snowing.
It did snow for a little bit, yes.
But
It
that
was
didn't
freaking
slow the
cold.
kids down, right? Did you have the same number?
I had about 120.
Greg gives out full-size candy bars if anyone wants to come by his house.
And actually,
year.
I learned this year that quite a few houses in my neighborhood do that. So,
Well, yeah, they're not going to let you be the only one. Did you take notes and go around and get your full-size candy bars?
no, I did not. Too cold. Yeah, it was good.
What do you hand out? Pure Hershey bars at this point?
No, this year I had Hershey bars and Kit Kats.
Is that because
Kit Kats were very popular, more popular than I thought they would be. Usually Hershey bars are the most popular.
do you get those because those are ones you like or those are ones you don't like? Because
No,
if they're left over,
well,
are you going to eat
Karen,
them or are you not going
no,
to eat
Karen,
them?
those days are over, Karen. Believe it or not, Karen, I keep a spreadsheet of every year of how many bars are taken and what's taken and what percent of each brand is taken. And
No
just-
way.
yes, I
You?
discovered that Hershey bars were very popular. So I always get more of those than anything. And usually I get three different. Like last year, I got Hershey bars, Kit Kats, and Twix bars because I like Twix and my wife likes Kit Kat. But those days are over now, Karen.
Just out of curiosity, do you think I would keep a spreadsheet of what candy bars left my house on Halloween night?
Probably not.
Good guess.
But I would.
Yeah, I know.
I also make a note of the weather, Karen, and what day of the week it falls on and things like that. So I'm trying to look for patterns, looking for patterns.
Do you actually look for that or do you just keep it all somewhere and you haven't really looked at it ever? Because I might do all that, but then I'd put it in a folder or something and never, or on the computer in a folder and never look at it again.
I look at it every
And
year.
then every year I'd go, oh, I should really do something with all that data.
Well, I look at it before I go buy my candy bars. So I can say, okay, well, last year I gave away this many candy bars. How many do I need to fucking buy this year? Depending on the weather. Because last year it was like this. And, it's pretty consistent. So I think one year I got up to 180. I think I got up to one. But those kids were coming back. Those were repeat customers. It was too cold for that shit this year, Karen. They weren't coming back.
Were there lots of oohs and ahs over all of your stuff?
Yeah, the usual. Taking photos.
Are the parents more impressed? You need like a photo stand that says Wallace Manor Haunt, and then they could tag you. That would be fun.
Yeah, if I had time to do that shit, Karen, I would.
Make time, Greg. When you have someone giving you such wonderful suggestions, you should follow.
And I raised a couple $100 for St. Jude.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. Do you want to put that up on the Scary Spirits? Is that over or can you still add to that?
Yeah, it goes all year long. But
well, go check out Wallace Manor Haunt on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. And if you put the link up there, maybe someone will.
Yeah, so it's part of a nationwide program called Skeletons for St. Jude. And I have a QR code on a sign outside in my yard and people can scan it and donate. And this is the first year I actually advertised it to my neighborhood that I was doing it too. So I did get some online donations too.
Nice.
But nationwide, the program so far has raised $250,000 this year. And every penny goes directly to St. Jude.
It's an excellent cause.
Oh, and Karen?
Yes, Greg.
The possession punch.
From last week?
Yes. It lasted me several days and I got 4 glasses out of it. And it was delicious. It did not.
Even later.
I didn't even care that it didn't have fizz. It was delicious.
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
Fruity tooty.
It lasts. You just put it in the refrigerator?
Yep. Put it in the pitcher in the fridge.
That's restraint on your part. Only 4 glasses and it lasted days?
Yeah, probably 3 days.
Were you feverish? What was the matter?
Well, you can only have so much possession punch, Karen. Too much of a good thing, as they say, or whatever.
Those days are gone too. Damn.
I had to save room for my beer, Karen.
Oh, okay. So it's possession punch with a beer chaser.
Yes.
Okay. Keep that in mind, people.
Yes, and the same beer chaser I was using was in the possession punch.
So it's still all mixing together in your belly.
Yeah, it's all good. But enough, Karen.
You're saying good day.
Good
day on that topic.
Good day to Halloween. It's
looking forward to next year already.
Okay, Karen.
I don't like your tone, Craig.
All right, Karen, I believe this film was your choice. Was it not?
It was.
And what film have you chosen for our enjoyment this week?
I chose the 1963 movie, The Terror.
And why, pray tell, Karen, why did you choose The Terror?
Well, at first, I made a mistake. I'll just say up front. I said last week. I know, it's shocking. Everyone take a moment. I've made a mistake.
Go on.
I feel like another one. I said it premiered on the Wednesday in which this podcast will come out. But you want to know how ridiculous I am? I thought that because it was on our calendar as what was going to come out that day. It did not premiere that day. The reason I chose it is because Boris Karloff is in it and his birthday is in November. That was the reason I originally chose it. But then when I looked at the calendar and I said, oh, look, it comes out the same day that we're doing the podcast, but it absolutely does not. Did not. Sorry.
No.
So I stand corrected. It premiered in Buffalo, I think.
I believe that sounds familiar. June 17th in the United States was its release date.
So apologies.
It did premiere in November in France. In 1991, though, Karen.
But no, we're just looking forward to Boris's birthday this month.
And I have to admit, don't know if I did earlier, Karen, but this has been on my watch list for a while. I've been trying to find a way to work it in.
Aren't you glad it was me instead of you?
Yep. Yes, I am, Karen. I'm very glad that I did not choose this film.
That you weren't responsible for this one.
Yep. Do you have a cocktail for us, Karen?
I do. It's called the Black Widow cocktail. It's wickedly delicious, in case you weren't wondering. And it is not, as you might think right off the bat, about the spider. I chose it because in this story, Boris is a widow. So, and I figured he would be evil. So Black Widow.
It's all very complicated, Karen.
Yes. In the original thought process, someone would be a widow.
Someone is
it's not the spider. You want to know how to make it?
I do, Karen.
Well, first you're going to make your very own blackberry juice. I don't know if you can buy blackberry juice or not. I've never bought it before, but anyway, you're going to need
can buy a blend, a blackberry blend, but
half a cup of blackberries, half a tablespoon of lemon juice, and you put that in a blender and process it fine, and then you strain it. I strained it right into my glass. It is not easy to strain if you're buying blackberries at this time of year. I think if it was the summertime and they were squishier, it would be a little and juicier. You might get a little more juice and a little less pulp, for lack of a better word. That was difficult.
Mine was like puree.
So you add the blackberry juice to a cup with ice, and then you're going to add 1 ounce of simple syrup, 4 ounces of the blackberry juice, 2 ounces of vodka, and stir it up. And if you can get a hold of dry ice, use it before serving, which would have been cool. It's a very Halloween-y color. It's a very summer taste. It's a nice red, purplish hue. So that
looked like I killed somebody on the bar, Karen, because there was red juice everywhere.
And it was all over my hands. So it's quite dramatic when you make it.
Yeah. And it's got little clumps in it too, like
clotted blood.
Blood and
I mean,
body parts.
So I think it's delicious, but that's me.
It is. It's good. I was not as successful in
straining
and blending it finely, Karen.
You do need a very fine strainer because you don't want the seeds in your drink.
I got all the seeds. Probably makes it healthy though, Karen.
Sure.
Probably lots of vitamin C in there, I'll bet.
Lots of vitamin something.
Yep. Should we give our listeners time to make their own cocktail, Karen?
Absolutely.
Hold on. And we're back.
Yes, we are.
I'm looking up the nutrition value of blackberries. Raw blackberries are 88% water, 10% carbohydrates, 1% protein, and 0.5% fat. Contains 20% or more of your daily value of fiber, manganese, vitamin C, and vitamin K. So there you go, boys
Good
and girls.
stuff.
And it has lots of other vitamins too, but those are the biggies. Okay. Might you have a brief synopsis of the film, Karen?
I do.
Go on. Tell us all the story.
Lieutenant Duvalier, a French soldier, loses contact with his unit and is forced to wander alone near the Baltic Sea. While in search of his regiment, he spies Helene, a mysterious beauty walking by herself. Mesmerized, Duvalier begins tracking her, but she vanishes. He later catches up with her and follows her into a castle, where he encounters the bizarre Baron von Lepp, finds signs of witchcraft, and learns the shocking truth about Helene.
Thank you, Karen, for that brief synopsis. We are a match, and I'm glad you had to read it, not me, because I'd have never pronounced his name right. And where is the Baltic Sea, Karen? I'm sorry, it's geography, isn't it? I should know better.
Wow, you're in rare form, aren't you?
We always say, what were you about to say, Karen? Were you about to tell me, or were you about to say something about geography?
I don't know where the Baltic Sea is. Well, not exactly.
Okay. Arm of the Atlantic Ocean that is enclosed by Denmark, Estonia, Finland, Germany, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Russia, Sweden, and the North and Central European plain.
It sounds large. They don't really mention it in the movie, though, so I don't know where that...
No, they don't. But it's basically that big stretch of water in between, I guess you would call it mainland Europe and Scandinavia, right?
Yeah.
North of Poland and Germany. And so it doesn't border France at all. So I don't know what the hell he's doing there. What's he doing there, Karen?
I think he's isn't he with Napoleon's army or something?
I don't know. He said he's lost in the Confederation of the Rhine.
I don't know. I found it all very confusing and uninteresting.
Kind of takes place, in those countries I just named, Germany, Poland, somewhere in that area.
I think he's trying to get back to France, isn't he?
He asked about directions to someplace, but I don't know where it is.
But that's just where his unit was going, not where his home was.
All right, Karen, tell me everything you really enjoyed about this film.
Well, let me just start by saying there's a very young Jack Nicholson in this movie.
Yes.
And I never had
a very old Boris Karloff.
Yes. But I've experienced old Boris Karloff. I had only seen Jack Nicholson in movies where he was older. Even The Shining, he's a little older. And I'm just going to tell you straight up, I didn't get it. I mean, he's a good actor. But he is put out as a sex symbol. Like in Witches of Eastwick and things, he's supposed to be this sexy guy. And I don't have a type, but he is not my type. I never understood it, never saw it, just didn't understand it. I never really liked him in films. I mean, in The Shining, he's creepy, but that's maybe what formed my opinion of him. And I couldn't see him any other way.
Lots of his best roles, he's very creepy.
But yeah, so I never could see him as sexy or whatever.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Like there's a movie where he's in it with Diane Keaton and he's actually dating her daughter and then he ends up with her. I don't know what it was, but I could see absolutely no appeal of why a 20-some-year-old would be interested in Jack Nicholson. I just never saw it. And watching this, still don't really get it, but he looks a lot better, as we all did when we were younger. You know, he's handsome. I still don't really see the whole thing, the mystique about him or whatever, but I can see it in this film.
We know who the lady who plays Helene was his significant other at the time, and he kind of got her the job.
Well, I guess that's how it works sometimes. Might sound weird, but I'm going to say what I liked about the movie. I will say the acting was better than the movie.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does.
I thought they acted well, and I don't want to get into what I didn't like, but the movie's horrible. But
yeah,
the
actors were better than the movie.
Yeah. Well, as a musician, and marching band just finished for me, and that's a big deal around here. You could have very good musicians, but if the marching or the composition or whatever wasn't good, it just wouldn't come together. And that's kind of what it feels like. It's a weird analogy if you're not into music or whatever, but the acting's good. The movie's horrible. If it's the story or the lines or whatever, but you're not put off by any of the actors in the movie at all. I didn't think. The sets are okay. There's nothing wrong with the sets. There aren't a lot of them, but they're fine. They give you a good idea of where they are and what's happening.
Does it?
I mean, it's a pretty limited story. It's a limited area and a limited amount of time. It's a small cast, which I like. I could keep track of who was who and what they were doing.
Until they start changing identities.
Don't give it all away. Did you like anything about it?
The first thing I wrote down on my little note thing here is Big Sur. So California coast looked nice.
I was going to say, I visited Big Sur, and that's exactly what it looked like. Is that where it was?
Yeah. And I wrote that even before I knew it. I was like, well, that looks like Big Sur.
I think I wrote that in my notes. Is this Big Sur? It's a beautiful, beautiful place.
Yeah, I agree. The acting was better than the film, story, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, but
the sets are okay. I mean, the castle looks like a castle. It's a good castle. Matte paintings aren't that great. So the castle from a distance doesn't look very good. Makeup where there is any horror makeup, especially, it was okay. It was okay. I thought that was
really
it made my eyes water. But I have sensitive eyes, Karen. Very sensitive. Yeah. Anything else you liked?
Not particularly.
Okay. Anything you didn't care for much? Anything at all?
Well, we've alluded to it already. There's a very unnecessary twist at the end. It almost felt like they were making up this movie as they went along. That's what I mean. They acted it fine, but it was almost like they were improvising the whole thing. And they would get together and say, hey, well, what if we do this? And, let's make this twist. And they didn't need the twist at the end. It was fine without it. Probably better. It's a convoluted story. You can't really tell what's going on a lot of the time. And it doesn't even involve a lot of people. So you should be able to figure it out. There's Gustav, I found completely unnecessary to even be there. He can't talk, and then all of a sudden he can. There's all this weird stuff with birds. I don't know why they were there or what was happening.
I think it was just one bird, Karen. The same one over and over again.
Okay, but I don't know why it was there. And I thought the special effects at the end were especially bad, but maybe I was just frustrated by that point and just didn't care for it. So, I mean, didn't you think it felt like they were just making it up?
Well, like I kind of, like I always do, read about it beforehand. I guess Roger Corman, who directed it and wrote it as well. But he'd been doing a lot of Poe films at the time, and he said, well, I'm going to make up a Edgar Allan Poe story from scratch, and this is what he came up with.
It's got Poe
using the same sets as The Raven, which he was making at the same time, which I guess also starred Boris Karloff.
Well, I hope that.
But he said, "Hey, can you stick around for a couple of days?
Let's throw this together."
Yeah, there's things I didn't understand. It took me a while to figure out. Well, I thought the only way to get to the crypt was through the chapel, but there's another way, and then I couldn't figure out, well, why is he trying to get in that way and Jack's trying to get in another way? So I didn't make the connection that they're trying to get to the same place, just that both doors were locked or whatever, so they decided to attack each of them at the same time. So I didn't really understand that. I still don't know how he came up with the name of Eric. I missed that. Where did we learn about Eric the first time? I have no idea.
Is that the guy that died?
Yeah.
Yeah, when he's talking to the old lady.
Does the old lady tell him?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I can.
Maybe. No, I think we have to infer that that's who it is until the end.
Okay.
It's weird.
Well, it didn't make sense to me.
There's not many films that I would say skip it, because there's usually something in it. If you're in the right mood or you want it on in the background and we're not really concentrating, whatever. This is, I think, the first film that we've watched that I would say, unless you want to see a young Jack Nicholson, I would skip it.
I mean, it's not as bad as Attack of the Rotten fucking Tomato things or whatever.
Yeah, but that one's campy and funny, and it's supposed to be that way. This
Attack
one
of
is
the
not.
Killer Tomatoes, that's what it is.
This one is supposed to be taken seriously, and it's, again, the acting's not terrible. It's just
it's all good. Even there. Dick Miller is great in this film. But
you just sit watching it thinking, what is happening? And it doesn't tie up loose ends. It's just, there are better uses of your time, I would say.
And I recognize the old lady too, from something I've seen. She's been in some other things we've done. I feel like I pretty much recognized everybody except for Helene. She did lots of TV, so that's probably, including Andy Griffith's Show and other things. So that's probably where, and Bewitched, Addams Family. So I'm sure.
Sounds like she's a character actor. Yeah.
The girl who played Helene, she's says her most well-known film is Thunder Road from 1958, starring Robert Mitchum. I don't really recognize anything she was in. Actually, she was married to Jack Nicholson at this time, and they have a daughter together. All right, Karen, so what kind of cocktail rating would you like to give this film?
I'd give it a 5.
Wow. Really?
Again, it's hard because if I was grading the actors, I'd give it a 3. But if I'm grading the movie, I'd give it a 5.
I agree. I'll go with that.
There's I couldn't understand what was happening there. I didn't know why things were happening. And then at the end, it was just ridiculous. Not only the twist, but also the special. It was just, I wanted my hour 20 back after I watched it.
Did you watch it on Amazon Prime?
I did.
Well, it's included with Amazon Prime.
Yes, so it was just a waste of my time, not my money.
But even the it's not good quality either. At least the one when I watched it.
Was it color or black and white?
It was color.
Yeah.
Small screen, right? So it's not widescreen. It's a small square screen, and it wasn't clear. Everything was fuzzy and blurry.
But free.
But well, not free. You got to pay your Amazon Prime monthly fee. So no, it's not free.
Well, we used some of it.
You're paying for it.
Oh my God, get off my lawn. You're channeling the get off my lawn guy.
All right, 5 cocktails. I could not find any critics ratings from the time, Karen, believe it or not. But it does have a 5 out of 10 on IMDb, a 36% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, but 81 of those Google users like it, Karen.
81%?
Yes.
Wow. I'm telling you, they're talking about the acting, not the movie.
Probably. All right. Are you ready to get into it scene by scene?
Well, before we do that, and before
we must.
Now that we told everybody it sucked and everybody's going to leave, I do want to talk a little bit about Roger Corman, who you mentioned directed this film. So I don't know how much you know about Roger Corman, probably a lot more than I do.
Well, we've talked about him before in other films, so.
Roger Corman was called the Pope of Pop Cinema by Portland Center Stage and is responsible for igniting the careers of many worldwide stars and directors. Without Corman's eye for talent, audiences wouldn't have the works of Martin Scorsese, Ron Howard, or Francis Ford Coppola. He started out studying engineering and found out that's not what he wanted to do. But anyway, I just wanted to go over quickly some of the people who he has helped along the way. So I mentioned Martin Scorsese. Roger Corman had unintentionally established a sort of film school for actors and directors that taught relatively unknown artists the tricks of the trade. And Scorsese got a job editing a film for Corman after he edited the 1970 documentary film Woodstock. So he credits Corman with teaching him how to make a film with efficiency, filming a full movie in 3 days, and how to produce good movies cheaply. He worked with Corman. Francis Ford Coppola ended up as Corman's jack of all trades assistant.
He was associate producer on this film.
There you go. Corman finished a movie called The Young Racers and had money left over. He offered the remaining budget to Coppola to make a ripoff of Psycho. The cheap slasher flick was called
Dementia. The one we did, Dementia
13. And it showcased Coppola's eye for gothic elements. Ron Howard. So Ron was well established in acting, but wanted to get into directing. And Corman was the only person who would have a serious conversation with directing with someone of Ron's age. So he credits him with that. Peter Bogdanovich was a film critic, and Corman offered him a position of a director on the 1968 picture Targets. Jack Nicholson, who we see here, he got his big break due to Corman. Robert De Niro got his big break because his mentor and friend, Shelley Winters, recommended him to Roger Corman. Corman was developing the 1970 film Bloody Mama, and he put him in it, I guess. Sylvester Stallone, he found his way into Hollywood via Roger Corman's guidance. William Shatner, he didn't start his film career because of Corman, but he starred in Corman's 1962 The Intruder, then went on to get Star Trek, and then circled back around, and Corman got him into B movies like Big Bad Mama. So Roger Corman is correctly called the Pope of pop cinema. He established the careers of many iconic directors and actors that have produced memorable work due to Corman's belief in them. So there you go. You just need someone to believe in you. I believe in you, Greg. Anyway, that's quite the list. I'm sure those are just the uber famous ones. I bet there are a lot of other people that he helped along the way too. I'd never heard of him until we started doing these movies. I mean, I'd heard of the movies, but I had not heard of him specifically.
I had heard of him.
So it's interesting that he had such a broad scope of, sounds like a cool guy.
All right. Ready to get into it?
Ready.
The Terror from 1963. First thing I wrote is free, but not good quality. Just like I said. Film opens and we have a stormy night. And I wrote,
wait, you didn't see violence, frightening scenes, foul language, and sexual content?
I didn't see any of that shit.
Was there foul language in there? I don't remember any.
I don't know. I don't either.
Rated 13 plus.
Okay. Film opens. It's a stormy night and we see Boris Karloff wandering a castle. And it looks like he's following a blood trail or something. He opens the door and a corpse pops out.
He twists the candelabra on the wall and a secret passage door opens.
I couldn't see that. I didn't know what the hell he was doing. But that's okay because we see it like 5 more times.
Yes. He's in his fancy smoking jacket, so he's rich and it's what I said. It looks like a blood trail. And then there's a jump scare of the skeleton.
I think he must have arthritis in his hip too, because he walks a lot like I do now. And then we have credits, Karen, after the jump scare, I guess.
Yeah, they look like cartoon graphics.
Yeah, more cartoon graphics, Karen.
Must have been the thing.
With a white bird.
Yeah.
And right here I wrote, Francis Coppola, associate producer. That just like grabbed my eyes because I wasn't really paying attention to the credits. And then I wrote 3 minutes and 30 seconds later, the film starts.
On what looks like a Northern California beach is what I wrote.
Yep. I wrote Big Sur. We see Jack Nicholson on horseback on the beach. And I call him Jack the whole time.
So do I.
But his
very young.
His character's name is Andre. But his compass seems to be malfunctioning and he appears to be lost, Karen.
So who do you think might have come up with the first compass?
Some Greek, probably.
Historians think China may have been the first civilization to develop a magnetic compass that would be used for navigation. The first magnetic compass was invented by the Chinese during the Han Dynasty back in 206 BC. It was later adopted for navigational purposes by the Song dynasty during the 11th century, and later in Western Europe and Persia in the 13th century. Lodestone is a natural mineral ore, which is also a fantastic conductor of magnets. The first compass was built using lodestone. Today, the compass is built using liquid-filled magnets. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. We appreciate you spending time with us. You know, you can help us grow our audience by following us on social media at Scary Spirits Podcast. Just look for us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And don't forget to tell all your friends to find us too. Now let's get back to the show.
So he discards his compass, just litters right there on the beach.
Yep.
And then heat stroke, I wrote, he falls off his horse.
I said it must be noon because the sun is directly overhead.
I wrote Boris watches from above on a cliff, but I'm not sure it is him, but I just assumed it was because he's the only other person we've seen so far.
I think it was the woman. Someone's watching him. That's what I wrote. I don't know who it is.
Yeah, I don't think it's the woman, but it could have been who we learn is Gustav, right?
True. I think it was actually. You're right. It's Gustav.
But we haven't seen him yet. So I said, well, that must be Boris. But then he sees the surf washes on him and he regains consciousness. And then he sees a woman in the surf and asks for her help. He's very thirsty.
I did write, he wants the road to Colburn, which is in Germany. But yes, he needs drinking water, and it's a beautiful woman, I said. But she walks right past him.
Walks right past him, but he follows. She does guide him to fresh water.
Yes, to a mountain stream, kind of, away from the beach a little bit.
And then she disappears.
He bows down to drink the water, lifts his head to thank her, and she's gone.
He looks around and he finds her. And he gives her a couple of his lines, Karen. I wrote. Then she walks into the water and Jack follows her. And he is attacked by a bird.
She says her name is Helene, right?
Helene, yes.
Yeah.
So then Jack wakes up in the house of an elderly woman, I wrote, or Andre. And the old woman has a bird with the same name as the girl, Helene. The old woman keeps telling Jack there was no girl there. There is no girl. Then Gustav enters and the old woman says he's the one who found you. And Gustav's trying to give Jack some signals about the bird, I think, or something.
All he wants to know is about the woman. And they keep saying, no, it's a bird. It's a bird. It was an illusion.
Yeah. So right here, I'm thinking, is she a shapeshifter?
I don't know. That would have been cool. I thought the same thing.
I thought that's what Gustav was trying to tell me. He was like pointing to the bird and doing all
he
stuff.
said Gustav. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, that would have been a better story.
Well, almost anything would.
So then Jack wakes up in the middle of the night and he follows the bird who was flown out the window out into the forest. And he finds Helene. And I'm thinking, oh, she must be a shapeshifter.
Yes.
She hugs and kisses him.
There's very suspenseful music throughout this whole thing, too.
Then she walks away and he follows.
Well, he asks who she is, but she doesn't answer. She just kisses him. And then she walks away and he follows, which you would, I suppose. If a woman kissed you, would you follow her? I would.
If a woman kissed you, you'd follow her?
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably would too. But then Gustav stops him before he steps into quicksand.
Yes, the old quicksand, which I think we've talked about before. Given how often quicksand deaths and near deaths occur in film, you would think we would be seeing news about quicksand tragedies in real life. But an internet search for deaths by quicksand won't turn up much. Quicksand is sand that behaves as a liquid because it is saturated with water. It can be a mucky nuisance, but it's basically impossible to die in the way that is depicted in movies. That's because quicksand is denser than the human body. People and animals can get stuck in it, but they don't get sucked down to the bottom. They float on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
Our legs are pretty dense, so they may sink, but the torso contains your lungs, which is buoyant enough to stay out of trouble. Do you know how to get out of quicksand? Let me tell you.
Very carefully.
If you do find yourself stuck in quicksand, the best idea is to lean back so that the weight of your body is distributed over a wider area. Moving won't cause you to sink. In fact, slow back and forth movements can actually let water into the cavity around a trapped limb, loosening the quicksand's hold. Getting out will take a while, though. Physicists have calculated that the force required to extract your foot from quicksand at the rate of 1 centimeter per second is roughly equal to the force needed to lift a medium-sized car. One genuine danger is that a person who is immobilized in quicksand could be engulfed and drowned by the incoming tide. Quicksands often occur in tidal areas, but even those types of accidents are very rare.
Okay. Gustav tells him he will find the girl at the castle of Baron von Lepp. But there's great danger. Great danger.
But that's not going to stop him. She kissed him.
Nope. Then we're back in the cottage, the old woman's house. And Jack asks about the location of the castle. Jack has drawn a picture of Helene and shows it to the old woman.
There is no girl, she says.
No, there is no girl. She tells him she does not recognize her.
Do we see her laboratory here yet?
No.
Okay. Tell me when you do.
Jack leaves to find the castle. The old woman tries to stop him. Like the last thing she says is, don't tell him I'm here.
Yeah. Don't tell him I'm squatting.
So then I wrote, I guess Jack found his horse.
I said horse acting is amazing.
He's riding to find the castle, and there's a small avalanche, but he avoids harm. Jack arrives at the castle, and apparently he has found his hat as well, because he's wearing his hat now, which is the first time we've seen him wearing his French military uniform hat, I guess is what it is.
Yeah, but it's showing his full rank, I guess, so that he needs to be respected, because that's mentioned a couple times.
He yells up to the castle, asking if anyone is there, and he sees Helene in the window. Then he orders the door be opened in the name of the government of France.
Yes.
So Boris opens the door, or the Baron, and Jack asks him for some temporary shelter. Boris introduces himself as the Baron. Jack asks him who the young woman was in the window, and Boris tells him there was no young woman.
He says, no, I saw her. She has dark hair and dark eyes, and she's about 20.
Then Stefan arrives with the cognac, played by Dick Miller.
I would be needing some cognac during this movie.
Boris shows Jack a painting of Ilsa, right? But it looks just like Helene. And Jack sees the painting was done 20 years ago, and the Baron tells Jack that she's been dead for 20 years. She was the Baron's wife. Baron tells Jack that he and Stefan are the only people living at the castle. There is no girl. Then we have another stormy night, Karen. It looks like Jack Horse escapes from the stable.
Again, good horse acting.
Jack looks out the window and sees Helene. He yells, hey, I'm coming down. Wait for me. But why does he go to the window?
Because his door is locked from the outside.
Yeah, but it almost sounded like she threw a rock or something.
He hears shrieking.
Okay.
So something's going on outside.
Well,
Gets his gun.
Yeah, well, right. That's what he does here. As he's getting ready to go to see her, he finds the door is locked.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And there's strange noises coming behind the door. Jack grabs his gun, but I noticed he held it in his hand, so we couldn't tell what kind of gun it was. It probably wasn't period, Karen. I bet that Roger Corman said, just hold it deep in your hand so we can't see what it is. Only the barrel is all we ever see. But anyway.
We just know it's a gun.
Yeah. He tells whoever is behind the door to unlock it or he will shoot through the door. The door opens and there is no one there to be seen, Karen. Right here I wrote, Jack finds his way to the cemetery. But it's really he's in the cemetery, but it's a chapel he goes to, right? So the chapel door is locked, right? You can't get into the chapel. But they're in the chapel, right? Because he's asking about the religious shit later.
I thought it was what's it called? Mausoleum. He goes to where he saw Helene go, and he has no light source, I said. So I don't know how he's seeing anything, because he's going into this very dark room. And then he finds the grave for Elsa, right?
Elsa, whatever, yeah.
I think it's like where they bury their dead. Isn't it that the mausoleum? I think he is in the graveyard out there. But I think there's probably a passage from the castle to the mausoleum.
Yeah, it was all very confusing to me.
But there are graves outside the mausoleum.
Yes.
So I think it is a graveyard.
So then back in the castle, Jack goes to his room. He opens the door and Helene is there, and then she disappears after startling him. He finds the picture he drew of her ripped in half.
And crumpled up.
Then we see Boris and Stefan. Boris tells Stefan that Jack must leave, but Stefan is to show him the respect his rank deserves. But he's supposed to convince him he should leave. Stefan finds Jack in the crypt at the grave of Ilsa. Stefan tells Jack that his horse is missing. And this is where Jack asks, this is a house of religion. Where are all the artifacts? And Stefan says they've all been taken away, that no one's been through that door in 20 years down to the crypt or whatever. But Stefan tells Jack his horse is missing, but he will get him one from the town immediately. And here he asks about a man named Eric. And I'm like, where did he get that name?
He says, why do you want me to leave so badly? Are you afraid that I'll find out about Eric?
Yeah.
So Stefan's reaction confirms that there is an Eric. Yes, there is an Eric. And so Jack says, well, at least that is an ally. I don't know what he said. Sorry. But he finds out about Eric. There's nothing here but an old man and his decaying memories. Leave them in peace, is what Stefan wants to happen.
But then Jack starts questioning the Baron, or Boris, and he threatens
answers.
To come back. He wants answers. I will come back here with my men, my whole company, and we will search this place inch by inch and blah, blah, blah.
Boris should have said, you can't handle the truth. Why was the portrait removed?
Yeah, so then, of course,
he sent it away for renovation. He has answers for everything. Their dampness put mold on the pigment.
But Jack's not leaving until he gets answers.
Right.
So the Baron tells Jack the story of how he met and married Ilsa. And then he came home from some military campaign or something and found her with another man, Karen.
So her death was violent, he says.
He killed her with his own two hands. He can't believe he did it. And Stefan killed her lover.
Yes, Stefan took care of the lover.
So the Baron tells Jack that the spirit of Elsa began coming back about 2 years ago. Then we come back to Gustav, and he finds Ilsa, whatever. Tells her name is Elsa, and she says, the old woman told me my name is Helene, and she has drawn me out of the sea. And Gustav tries to say, well, then go back to the sea then. Doesn't he try to get her to go back to the sea? And then a bird flies over, and Helene says, the old one calls, and she gives Gustav a warning. Then we see Stefan watches as the old woman performs magic with Helene.
Oh, that's right. He sees them together. He says she's hypnotizing her.
And right here I wrote time check. This is the first time I looked to see how much time was left in this movie. And there was about 40 minutes, Karen. So it's about half over.
The woman speaking in a foreign language, and then in English, she wants the soul of Elsa to sink deeper and deeper and deeper into this mortal coil, Helene. Be as though you never were, meaning Helene.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about mesmerism?
And then she disappears.
We think we've talked about mesmerism before.
Have we?
It's a therapeutic technique.
Maybe I was mesmerized and don't remember.
Popularized in the late 18th century by Franz Mesmer, who claimed it to effect cures through the use of vitalistic principle that he termed animal magnetism. The procedure involved the application of magnets to ailing parts of the patient's body and the induction of trance-like state by gazing into the patient's eyes, making certain magnetic passes over him or her with the hands and so forth. It's superseded hypnosis. It's basically, they thought they could control you.
That was a Scorpions album too, Karen. Animal magnetism.
Nice. But trying to put you in a trance-like state and suggest things.
So then Stefan confronts the old woman. He tells her this is the property of the Baron and she is forbidden from living here or even stepping foot on the property. Stefan seems to know a lot about her, though, Karen. He knows how long she's been there, knows all about what she's been doing, tells her that she must leave within 24 hours or he will come back and kill her himself.
And burn the place to the ground.
That's right. And then right here I wrote, the old woman knows that Eric lived in the house before. Every
Yes,
time the name comes up, there's like, dun, dun, dun.
Yes, and I said we get the soap opera stare. Like Eric lived here. And like you said, dun, dun, dun. You can just visualize that stare.
So Stefan warns the Baron that Jack must be forced to leave. Next, we cut to Jack wandering in the castle. I think he's in the Baron's room and he finds a revolver and a painting of Ilsa. And then the door locks on its own. And he hears Elsa's voice asking for help.
I noticed none of the candles are ever lit.
And then Jack follows the Baron to his room. Well, he keeps wandering the castle. He gets out. Door unlocks. Jack follows the Baron back to his room and he hears the voice of Ilsa inside and he busts in. Baron don't like that much.
Well, who would?
Tells him that Stefan has gone to get him a horse and that he should leave immediately upon his return. Stefan gives Jack his horse and tells him that Eric was the other man that the Baron found Ilsa with.
Yes, because Jack says, who is Eric? And Stefan spills the beans.
And then Jack says, okay, I'll see you later. Like he's all ready to go. Yeah, I have to go now. At first, he refused to leave, and now he just
goes.
I'm out. I'm gone. See ya. Whatever. But then Gustav sees Jack.
Well, there's
from
birds.
A cliff.
And the birds are there.
Yeah, and Gustav's up on a cliff. He sees Jack down below on his horse, and he tries to tell him to stop and wait. And then Gustav is attacked by the bird, and his eyes are pecked out.
Yeah, that was pretty gross. It's like The Crow, the movie The Crow, where they use the bird to see. That's what I thought maybe the old lady was doing.
Yeah.
Kind of using the bird to watch what's happening.
And Gustav falls over the cliff. He gone. That's what I wrote. And then the next thing I have is time check. It's been 10 more minutes, Karen.
But Jack races up to him, right?
Yeah, Jack finds Gustav, and right here wrote, apparently he ain't dead yet. Because he tells him that he must help Ilsa.
She has seen you and she loves you. Helene, who is it? Helene or Elsa? I don't know.
I don't know either. But I'm starting to call her Elsa now. So then we see Jack back at the castle. He finds Elsa. They kiss. Jack tries to get her to go away with him. She says she can't. She says the crypt must be destroyed. She says she is possessed by the dead. But Jack says, hey, we got some good doctors in Paris. They can probably take care of that thing in your head.
At this point, I said she looks and sounds a lot like Elizabeth Taylor.
She does look like Elizabeth Taylor.
And just her cadence and stuff, she sounds a lot like her in this moment. Yes, there are doctors who can free her from her mind issues. But he's fine with her mind. Come away with me. I don't care that you're crazy and think you're possessed by the dead.
And then Elsa professes her love for Jack. And Jack says, okay, let's go. But then he stops and says, wait right here. I'm like, why are you telling her to wait? But whatever. He tells her to wait. He stops. He goes to get the horse, I guess. Takes like 2 steps. Lightning crashes and she's gone.
She does say she's afraid of the night. But he says there's nothing to be afraid of. And they kiss again. Love me and there is no fear.
So then we see the same scene we saw in the beginning of the film where the Baron or Boris is walking through the castle. But this time Jack follows him. Right here I wrote time check. It's been about 10 more minutes, Karen. Or I think it's actually been 6 more minutes at this point. In the crypt, the Baron talks to Elsa.
Did you notice that Jack was wearing very clickety-clackety boots? He was not sneaking up on anybody. But proceed.
Elsa tries to convince the Baron to commit suicide, but he fears his soul will be damned if he does. So then Jack rushes in and tries to chase down Ilsa, but she's gone. Nowhere to be seen. And he and I guess the Baron struggle, but
Boris is on the ground after one push.
Yeah, so next we see Stefan nursing the Baron. Baron's in bed and Stefan's nursing him back to health. And Jack
because asks if there's a doctor, and Stefan says his illness is not of the flesh.
And then Jack says, Baron says you guys been here 20 years all alone. You must have keys to know every inch of this castle. Show me the chapel. So now he's being very demanding again after he was just leaving not long ago. So they try to enter the chapel, but the hinges are rusted out. And the door to the chapel says Ilse von Lepp, R.I.P., right? It's painted on the door of the stupid chapel. They see a light coming from Ilse's bedroom in the castle. Stefan says something about no one goes in that room but the Baron. So Jack says, "Come on, let's go." And they run. They get to the room and Stefan says that only the Baron has the key to the door. So Jack just kicks the door in.
Yeah, he don't need no stinking key.
No. And they find a crib in there and Jack says, "Did she have a child?" Which is something totally out of the blue and never brought up again.
Right.
And Stefan says, I don't know. So then the Baron enters and he's pissed. He tells Stefan to escort Jack from the castle and gives him his gun. Lead him out at gunpoint. And once again, Elsa tries to convince the Baron to commit suicide. She tells him to take his life as he took hers. Outside the castle, Jack and Stefan fight because they saw Elsa and Jack, surprised, sucker punched Stefan. Jack finds the old woman in the cemetery.
With lots of Froggy's fog.
Yeah, the old woman tells Jack that she is Eric's mother and she wants the Baron to pay for killing him with his own life. Once again, we see the Baron, that same scene, once again, walking through the castle.
The bird's there too, right?
In the castle?
No, with the old woman.
Oh, yeah, it's up above and Jack has a gun and points it down and says, "Tell it to back down."
Baron still doesn't want to kill himself because it's an unpardonable sin. But he killed my son, Eric.
The Baron walking through the castle again. Stefan tries to stop the Baron, but the Baron keeps on and enters the crypt. Pushes Stefan away.
I think he hits him with a chain and knocks him out.
Be too. Then we see Jack and the old woman arrive. Jack explains, and Stefan's there. Jack explains that Stefan killed Eric and not the Baron. Stefan tells them that Eric was not killed at all, but the Baron was, and that Eric took over the persona of the Baron. And he believes himself to be the Baron at this point.
It's very bizarre.
So then they try to get into the crypt,
which is being flooded,
to save. I start calling him Eric now.
Yes, now it's Eric because it's Eric. It's not the Baron. It's
before it's flooded. So they turn the candlestick just like Eric / the Baron did to get into the crypt. But now the crypt won't open. It's locked or some shit. And they can't get in. So then Jack runs to the chapel. And I didn't know why exactly, but I guess they were attacking from both sides, right? Like both doors are locked. He tries to get the old woman to go into the chapel with him, but she refuses. Well, he can't get into the chapel anyway. The fucking door's
rusted
shut. He's just going to be hacking away at it
with a crowbar.
But she refuses. She says she can't go into a holy place, that she made a deal with the devil or some shit. But so she backs up and is struck by lightning and burns. She gone.
You can't go into a house of God. And I said, and she runs away, and I know
how she feels, Karen.
And I think she's supposed to be struck by lightning. Oh, she is. And she burns immediately. But he gets into the chapel.
Well, Jack tries to break into the chapel as Stefan tries to break into the crypt. This went on for a while. We see Eric / the Baron in the crypt. Ilse / Helene is trying to convince him to flood the crypt so they can be together.
Right.
Stefan finally breaks through the door. Eric / the Baron starts to flood the crypt. Elsa / Helene and Eric / Baron struggle. They fight. Right?
Yes.
Jack breaks into the chapel, finds his way to the crypt.
Now the water's up to their shoulders and they're fighting.
Eric and Elsa continue fighting in the water.
Stefan
enters.
Belly flops in and tries to get the girl off of Eric.
Yeah, he's trying to pull Elsa off Eric.
Elsa / Helene.
Yeah.
Off Eric / the Baron.
So then the crypt starts to collapse, cave in on itself.
And the rocks are floating.
That's what they do.
Yes.
Jack arrives, grabs Elsa, and carries her out of the crypt. Because apparently he can't save the others. They're gone. They gone.
Yeah, the men are dead.
Jack takes her out, tells her that it's over and that she is free now.
There's a good boob shot there. Not full,
Was there?
but yes, I wrote it.
I was hoping for a little more wet t-shirt action there, but yeah, but she did have one of those push-up corsets and all that crap, right? Or whatever.
But he tells her, "You're free now." He says his name is Andre, and they kiss.
And then Elsa turns into a rotting corpse.
Looks like caramel all over her face. And the bird's there again.
Yeah, the bird's
and he
above.
looks at the bird and looks back, and she's decayed.
Yes, her face is melted off.
So I don't get it. Was she Elsa? I have questions.
No, because we saw her body in the crypt at one point.
Did we?
Yeah, the Baron opened the crypt and saw her.
I just can't tell. So who was she? Why did
That's
she
when
decay?
she was telling him that, her beauty. Look what you took my beauty from me, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, the end.
But why did she decay? That's what I didn't get it. I did not. And why everybody had to have alter egos. And I just.
Well, I knew from the beginning they were going to have alter egos because just like usual, Karen, I wrote down all the characters on my little notepad here. So I had Baron von Lepp / Eric because that's what it's credited on Wikipedia, right? Helene / Ilsa.
It was an odd one.
Yeah. I think I might have had another time check. I didn't make a note in there before the end, but maybe not. All right, Karen, what did you think of your Black Widow cocktail?
I like the Black Widow cocktail.
Okay, if I could get rid of the seeds.
Well, yeah, you just need a better strainer.
And the, all the pulp.
It might be good with, you know what? It might be good with tart cherry juice, because you add a little of the sugar and then you have the vodka and it would have similar color. And you can buy tart cherry juice. You don't have to strain it. And it would have the same color, kind of, because it's a darker red than cherry juice.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I think it's a great drink for
Refreshing.
Halloween party, but I think it's a summer drink masquerading as a Halloween drink. But I like it.
Yep, it's good. Is there anything we learned today, Karen?
We learned way too much about Roger Corman. We learned about the compass, quicksand, mesmerism, and you got a Scorpions reference?
I did. Animal magnetism, boys and girls. Scorpions record. Learned a little about blackberries too. How nutritious they are. Anything else?
No, I think that's pretty much it. That's a lot for that film.
Yep. All right, next film, Karen. Moving on.
What do you got for us?
Oh, is it my choice?
Yes, Greg. You're perpetually surprised by that.
Film I have chosen, Karen, is a film called Blood Rage.
Ooh.
Also known as Nightmare at Shadow Woods, and also known as Slasher.
Wow.
It's got 3 names, Karen, so you know it's going to be good.
Yeah, that does not bode well, Greg.
From 1987.
Why did you choose this one?
Because it takes place during Thanksgiving, Karen.
Awesome.
And Thanksgiving is almost upon us.
In a couple of weeks. That's it. There's no other.
Nope.
Just okay.
That's why.
Cool. Have you seen it before?
Nope.
Do you have a drink to go with it?
I do, Karen.
And what would that be?
It's called the Honey Bourbon Toddy.
Ooh, you just picked that because you like it.
Supposedly it's a good Thanksgiving cocktail for after Thanksgiving dinner.
What?
I swear. That's why I chose it.
I think you just like hot toddies.
Well, I do.
Is it hot?
Yep.
All right. I'll take your made up excuse. It's fine.
No, I
You
looked
don't
up
like-
Thanksgiving cocktails, and that was one of them that came up. An after
You're not
dinner
a-
cocktail.
Big bourbon fan. So what's in a normal hot toddy?
Well, in
When you
mine,
make it
when I'm just
honey-
winging it,
Yeah.
tea. Usually I use like Jim Beam honey or American turkey or wild turkey honey.
Jack
And then
Daniels has
also
a
real
too.
honey. I also put real honey in and lemon juice
Oh,
and a lemon slice if I have it.
fancy.
And a cinnamon stick if I have it.
Ooh, that's almost Instagram worthy.
Yeah. And that is very similar to this recipe, actually. So we're going to need honey, hot water, bourbon or apple bourbon, which I may try with the apple bourbon.
Ooh, I've never heard of that. Is there a brand? Or it just says apple bourbon?
This is apple bourbon.
Oh, I was just wondering because I've not seen
And there
it.
is a recipe to make your own if you
Ooh.
like to. Lemon peel and cinnamon sticks.
Okay. It sounds like a drink when your throat hurts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically, if you want to make your own apple bourbon, you just take a bottle of bourbon, put in 4 cord sliced Fuji apples and 4 cinnamon sticks in a pitcher, cover, and let it chill for 3 days.
Wow.
I know you can buy it.
Oh, okay. Well, I've never seen it, but I'll look for it.
I think Jim Beam makes an apple bourbon. Jim Beam makes all kinds of flavors.
Oh, they do?
Yep, Jim Beam apple.
It'd be nice if they sold it in the little, the teeny tiny one.
It's actually a liqueur though. It's a combination of apple liqueur and Jim Beam Kentucky straight bourbon mixed. Jim Beam apple.
You could try to make it. I would make it on a much smaller scale. I'm not using a whole bottle of bourbon to do it, but I could quarter it and put 1 apple in it, right?
Yep. And the recipe I found is for 2 servings. So,
but you're not going to share.
You only need 6 tablespoons of the bourbon. So 3 tablespoons per.
Yeah, you can have that, right?
Yeah, which is almost an ounce. Probably is an ounce. 3 tablespoons. I think that's an ounce.
I think it is.
So I don't know why they put it in tablespoons, but whatever. Go ahead on bonappetit.com. So there you go. We'll be celebrating Thanksgiving together, Karen. Our own little Thanksgiving.
Multiple times.
Oh, joy.
Wow, I really don't like your tone. Rude. You'd be so lucky.
Okay, so that'll be next week.
Can't wait.
Anyone you need to thank this week, Karen?
Well, as always, I'd like to thank our listener. There are so many podcasts out there. Thank you for spending time with us. What about you, Greg? Who do you need to thank?
Karen, I'm going to thank the people of the great state of Georgia.
Nice.
Well, also, I'm going to thank the people of the Buckeye State as well, too, because they came through as well.
Ohio stepped up.
Yep. And the band Verse 13 for providing all of the music in the Scary Spirits podcast.
The music definitely makes the podcast better.
Anything else, Karen?
Please drink responsibly.
Yes.
Thanks for listening to the Scary Spirits podcast, where the movies might be iffy, but the drinks are always solid. We would love to hear from you. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Scary Spirits Podcast, or go to our website, scaryspirits.com. And if you want the direct line, email us at info@scaryspirits.com. If you really want to help us out, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And remember, always drink responsibly. See you next week.